We are back to our roots. We're doing a good old mailbag episode.
I just love when people write in because it really is why we're doing this.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. This podcast also does not establish a standard of care, doctor-patient, or client relationship. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. And because each person is so unique, all listeners are encouraged to connect with counseling and medical professionals for assistance with their personal journey. All people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved.
Welcome to We're Not Fine. I'm Dr. Talia Jackson.
And I'm Doug Jensen. We thank you for listening every week to our deep and thought-provoking conversations about relationships.
Hi, friends.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to We're Not Fine. Yet another episode. We kind of took a break over the 4th of July, so we're glad you're back.
That's why we look
and we're
so
glad to
fresh.
Be back. Do we look fresh?
No, we don't look fresh.
It's a little warm in here.
It is super duper humid out here in good old Minnesota. Soup Stoops Hume.
Yep.
No,
Soup Stoops Hume.
Me.
And especially at our live event, which was very hot.
Oh my goodness. Our glorious Nick Harper, who let us have our...
from Rogue Buddha Studio.
Yes, that's our monthly jam, you guys. We are loving those live events so much. And I've gotten such
And we love
feedback.
Nick. Yeah.
We love Nick. It was the how to find your way after catastrophic loss. And we hope you guys loved that episode. It was our last one. I think she was really fantastic.
Yeah. We don't always know. And I don't, I don't do a lot of research on people beforehand because I love the spontaneity of how I do therapy and how we do therapy and having somebody come in and not necessarily knowing who they are or what they are going to be talking about. But Dr. Kim Harms was just a delightful, adorable, smart, and really articulate person who I think shared a very, very personal story in a really delightful way. Some of it kind of shocking. Like I lost my breath at times, particularly hearing about her son's death by suicide. And so, it was really rough.
And she has such a beautiful take on all of it. And friends, don't worry. When Doug is not doing the research, I'm doing the research. And when I'm not, he is. So someone's doing research always.
I do some research. Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes he really does. It's
so we've been
on a Friday from 11 to 12.
Sometimes 10. Sometimes I get up early and I start at 10.
10 to 12.
I know.
But what I do appreciate about my BFF, Douglas, is that what I need to learn from you is your commitment to your boundaries around your energy and around your time. And even if I'm drowning and flailing and demanding, you're like, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Mm-hmm. Like that Instagram that you just showed me, like we are responsible for creating our own difficulty.
Yes, I was like, I said to him this morning, I was like, I hate this. I hate this shit. Because I can tend to feel a little sorry for myself and totally put upon and overwhelmed and I do everything and no one does anything. And that is not a cute look for me. And in fact, Rob and I just had a conversation I was like, I'm overwhelmed and wouldn't it be nice if sometime you just said, oh, hey, babe, you look overwhelmed. Can I make dinner? Can I go to the store? Can I blah, blah, blah? And as you can imagine, that didn't go well. And he was like, you know that you could be less overwhelmed if you did less. And I was like, whatever that was not helpful.
Because I say the same thing to you, or there'll be like 30 messages on the WNF or We're Not Fine group chat. And I'll be like, okay, I think 30 came in. And of course, this last Wednesday, there was like a lot of hullabaloo around it. Yeah. And I ended up after work, like, what did I miss? Because I was getting messages privately and I was getting all kinds of stuff happening. And I'm like, all right, what's happening? And I had seen 9 appointments that day. And so I was like, I have no idea what's happening. So
you're welcome.
Yeah. But luckily our whole team knows that this is my thing. And so I work Monday through Thursday very hard, see a lot of appointments during that time. I love being in my zone of psychotherapy in my office. And then on Friday I get up and from home, I can start looking at shit. Right. And that doesn't work always for you. And then you're working on Friday.
I do.
And so I get usually by Friday, it would be nice to get some help. You don't exactly do that. You kind of know my process.
I ooze it out.
It definitely, there's a passive aggressive component.
I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, you did. You got this.
I'm going to meet you at less.
Do you know that one week you did really well with this? Like one of the things you and I have had to figure out.
Because I'm starting a new internship. I have like 5 jobs.
You're doing an internship or you have an intern?
I have an intern.
Yeah.
I'm becoming a supervisor and I'm so excited about that. And so all of my ADHD hyperfocus and excitement and passion went into this, like, I'm going to set up an internship program. I'm so excited to join people. I mean, let people into our incredible profession. Guess what I did last night?
What did you do?
Okay. It was so freaking good. I don't know if you guys have seen A Quiet Place 1 and 2.
I have not seen either one.
Well, this was, I don't know what they even call it. It was A Quiet Place 0. It was a day 1. It was the prequel. It was what happened.
So the second movie was the prequel?
The third movie.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
I loved it. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but it was so freaking good. And the best part about it, so side note to the side note, I had this experience like a few years ago with my mom where she took me to the opera. It's all she wanted. And I am not someone who has enough sophistication or class to appreciate opera. And it makes me laugh in this way that's really not cool. And so I had to like stifle. I think it's like the loud and earnest cooing and the vibrato. I don't know.
I love it. I do love it.
I know. And I wish I were someone who could appreciate it. But what my mom said after that very long 3 hours of opera was the best part about it was holding my hand for 3 hours. And I got that experience yesterday with my little and with Rob. And we were like clutching onto each other for dear life because it was like horror and scary. And of course, the eldest was smooching with his beautiful girlfriend the whole time. So there was that.
That background noise would be difficult for me. As you say, smacking. So many comments. You know, my first opera was when my daughter was attending school in New York and we went to Lincoln Center and I became a little obsessed. Like I couldn't believe it. It was so amazing. There's a scene in the movie Philadelphia, of course, if anybody knows that, where the opera is very meaningful. As he kind of gets lost in the music. I think it was Madame Butterfly. And so I love the opera. And I don't know why I don't go because we have an opera group here that is evidently astounding.
They're amazing.
So I've got to go more. I definitely have to go more. So I love it. It's not about sophistication. I think it's about taste. Like everybody doesn't like something. Like I was at Lumberjack Days last night. And the truth is I don't like country music. So I just kind of stood there for a while. And then all of a sudden we're like, I don't really care for country music. And so the 3 people with me said, we don't either. Let's go. And I'm like, did everyone think it was me that wanted to go see it? But everyone has preferences.
Good country tune is my husband.
Rob does, huh?
He
Wait,
loves
we should not talk about
Chris Stapleton.
I think I like some country, to be honest. I think there's some that I like. I think Chris Stapleton has some good music. And when I was at the Boston Calling Festival with a buddy, there was, I don't even remember his name, but there was a country singer.
Who was he?
I feel awful. I don't remember his name.
But he was
Tyler Childress. Is that his name?
I don't know.
It's something. I'm close there. It has child in it. Anyway, I apologize for everyone who's a big fan, but it was really a beautiful thing. And I really enjoyed it. And then I saw some videos that I think were really, really meaningful. I've saved in my YouTube episodes. But an interesting thing about horror movies, right? Like, I don't love the slasher ones that like people are just kind of stabbed or chainsawed or anything like that. I like the suspenseful ones.
Yes, same. I could live without the gory.
Yeah. But
these are so incredible because it's not what you see. It's what you don't see.
Yeah.
And it's not what you hear. It's what you don't hear. It's like, it's called A Quiet Place because if you're not silent, you will literally die. So everyone has to be silent.
So you would never survive.
Never. But also, you know this about me. I don't want to survive an apocalypse. I am not interested. Eat me first. I told you, this did not make me want to survive.
Can you just hide in my house and like, I don't know what, order food from Costco or something? Because I bet that will still happen. Zombies will be delivering it. Yep.
If I could be
As a-
guaranteed safety, online delivery, good coffee, soft sheets, a nice Sauvignon Blanc,
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yep.
Otherwise, I don't think I was meant for hardship. So today's episode.
Oh, that's really interesting.
We are back to our roots. We're doing a good old mailbag episode.
And part of the reason we're doing the good old mailbag is we did have a person who hopefully will come on at some point, but he canceled last night. And of course, we hope everything is okay with this particular person. But it's interesting. I get kind of excited to do mailbags because it's really what we do. Like, we like the questions that come in. And so we're always interested in every single person who views this. I don't care what question you have. You can do it anonymously to us. Well, we'll get to at the end where you can do that. But I just love when people write in because it really is why we're doing this. And because we're both clinicians with a lot of experience behind our belt, we love to be able to offer things to people in terms of feedback on their circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely love these mailbags. And I mean, we just glanced over this first.
I got excited.
We love, as you know, kind of diving in and being on the spot as though this is a therapy session, really. Although we're not giving therapy, we're just consulting as clinicians. And this first one, I was like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to recommend. I don't know whose problem this is or how they meet in the middle. So let's dive in and we'll see. Let's see what you think, Doug.
I can't wait.
Hear what you guys
I love this one, actually.
I love it.
Partly because we don't know what the answers might be for somebody. Everyone's different. But go ahead. Please read this.
So,
and then I'm going to comment on it. I'm excited.
I know. I've missed our mailbag.
I know. I love bags.
I know. Love a bag of mail. Which, by the way, we do have merch.
We do have merch and we have a mailbag. We actually have a mailbag that you can also, and it zips up so you can take it to the grocery store.
Yeah, it's kind of fabulous.
I love it too.
Ready. My girlfriend, Amy, who's 26, told me, and my name is Jake, and I'm 27.
Hi, Jake.
Told me that she wants to separate because she thinks my job is too dangerous and she doesn't want to lose me. How do I explain that I am safe and prevent her from breaking up with me? Okay, so Jake goes on to say, for backstory, I work as a bush pilot delivering mail.
Bush pilot.
Cargo and passengers in the backcountry of Alaska. This is like, I don't know anything about this world, right? Right?
You don't.
Right.
That is correct. I'm going to assume I know everything about it. I've been a bush pilot and I have not.
My girlfriend and I have both lived in Alaska our entire lives, and we went to elementary, middle, and high school together. So sweet. I asked my girlfriend out a year after high school when she was going to college locally, and I was in flight training. We've been dating for 7 years and have been talking about marriage. We learned that we had a mutual interest in each other for many years and had found the right time to start dating. Our families consider each other family friends. I mean, everything about this is so cute. I can hardly stand it. Sounds like a match made in heaven. For my job, after a few years of flight instruction, I've been working for a locally operated charter float plane service. Alaska has a distinct lack of road infrastructure, and our job is very important in connecting the state. My job is considered relatively dangerous. Being an air taxi pilot in Alaska has about double the fatal accident rate compared to the rest of the country. I wonder why.
Well, I think because of winds and because of the, it's got to be the terrain and the flight patterns and all those sorts of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
However,
I'm assuming that's the case.
I work at a very safe operation. It's made very clear by my boss, who has 50 years of experience flying in Alaska, that the pilot makes the final decision to fly.
So I think that's it. It's the conditions, weather conditions, circumstances, even landing maybe.
That's right.
Yep.
I am very safe and exhibit proper aeronautical decision-making procedures. Okay. 2 nights ago, my girlfriend told me she needed to talk to me while we were watching TV. I asked her what was up, and she told me she's been living stressed out every day that I wouldn't come home. But I get it.
I do too. Yep.
This took me absolutely by surprise. I asked how long she's felt this way. She told me she's been living stressed every day since I got hired at the place I work. I had no clue she felt this way. And we both had a very emotional moment. Good. I mean, that's sweet.
I think it is too.
She told me that she was thinking about ending things with me because she couldn't handle getting a call that I was overdue and had crashed somewhere in the mountains. She referred to the 2 friends I had lost since doing this work. She said it would absolutely be too devastating, and the stress has been impacting her work and her personal life. I had absolutely no idea she felt this way, and I didn't know how to respond. I was devastated. I asked about how breaking up would not be another form of losing me, which is a really good question because it is. She'd still have to grieve. But she insisted that we would still be friends and very close, but just not committed to each other. I also mentioned that I eventually will be going to the airlines, which is much safer, and how safe my job actually is, but she wasn't having it. I'm completely heartbroken. The next morning, she basically gave me an ultimatum that I get a flying job at a safer operation or we have to separate. She said that it pains her to do this, but she can't continue living every day scared that I won't come home. I'm considering sending my resume out to other places and have flight hours and experience to do so. But here's the problem. I really love my job and I'm good friends with everyone here. I understand that her life is being impacted by this, but I don't know how to get the point across that I'm safe and she doesn't need to worry. I have no idea how to handle this or what to say to convince her that my job is safe, but I don't want to lose her.
Thank you, Jake, for writing in on this issue. And you know what came to mind, like right away for me? I found myself thinking, like, what other jobs and are precarious and have high risk factors? Firefighting, police officer, our AV guy, we talked about this particular situation and email, mailbag. And, you know, he referenced construction. We talked about NASCAR driving and all the possibilities there. You know, I even think about professional sports sometimes and the damage that can be done. There are no guarantees, but we all know there are higher risk careers and occupational circumstances, right? So I think about everybody who's in any one of those professions, and I'm going to go firefighters in particular. Like, I can't imagine going into a burning place and deciding kind of like, where am I safe? Or the floor might fall out underneath me, or I might be consumed with smoke, or I don't know. I just, you know, we hear about deaths in that regard a lot. So there's a part of me that thinks, I appreciate so much, by the way. And I think this is where, you know, you didn't know she was feeling this way. So I'm going to go to the communication piece of this, because it's critically important that she let you know what was going on. It feels like she's been sitting on this for a while, which I don't love. So take that into account, the reality that she's been, you know, pondering this for some time and kind of, you know, did give it some thought about this. So I want to know more about like why she came to this conclusion. There is a part of me that thinks there are different people, right? Like, I think some people can tolerate this sort of risk, and this resiliency is high for some people, and people could be supportive of you doing something that you love, which is the other thing that came to me about this. Like, if you really love this, if this is your dream job, I remember I was working with someone who was a medic in a helicopter situation, and the amounts of accidents were really high because you don't have a lot of choice. If you're a medic, you have to go find these people. And so the flight conditions might be precarious, but you give them a shot, right? I don't know how that works exactly. I shouldn't make a judgment about that, but I'm assuming, you know, if they have to airlift somebody, they have to get there regardless of conditions. And so there's higher risk. But I think to myself, you know, I think it's good that you said something. I think the thoughtfulness and making sure that, you know, Jake, you understand exactly what her decision-making is about. But at some point, this is a decision-making tree. And I found myself thinking, all right, so if you change careers, if you apply for something else and you take a different flight job, and it sounds like flying is kind of your goal here in a safer circumstance, would that address the issue adequately? And would you be resentful? So you have to be really clear. If I give up this job for this relationship, I don't want it to be this ongoing sort of resentment that builds into contempt. And you will always look back and say, yeah, I did this for you, and now look what happened. The other thing I don't know about is, you know, if the two of you were planning to have kids, which of course is not a requisite to a relationship, but, you know, if you were planning to have kids, then kids come into play too. And the level of risk and how that works is a factor, I think. So all of these things should be considered as you two communicate and navigate this. But as always, I'm going to say compromise is the ticket. Like you really want to get to a place where you both are kind of talking about what you need. She has, however, set an ultimatum. I'm not huge on ultimatums. I wish there was more of a dialogue about this. And the question is, if you applied for a different job, what would make that okay? Or is it all flying? And then I want to go to the fact that you've lost 2 friends. Because it really struck me as, I'm assuming that was traumatic for you. I'm assuming that was a grief process that is probably very complicated because you do the same things as your 2 friends do that died. I think you said you lost 2 friends. Yeah, I'm assuming they died instead of like left him because it was dangerous. I think that's what.
I think they died on the job.
I think they died on the job. So that's what I think. Like you have your own trauma around this possibly, and probably every time, and it might actually intensify your need and your safety precautions that you're doing. But you have your own stuff about this, but you have a supportive group of people that you work with. So I'm grateful for your job. I'm glad you're connecting Alaska to the world through what you do. I'm glad that you have a boss who's really understanding and doesn't push you to fly if you're feeling uncertain about it. And it does sound like you're very safe. So all of those things, though, have not made her feel secure. Going a little bit back to who she is. Like this anxious attachment that she has, this anxiety and this stress that she has around this. It is affecting her personal life. It's affecting her other parts of her life. And we want to get to a place where that's not the case because that's concerning. And so I have kind of this general question, like, is she generally a nervous person? Is this an outlier in her life? Like she's a generally calm, pretty easygoing, pretty rational person, but she cannot do this one. That makes a difference, I think, as it relates to like what is happening here. But if she's pervasively anxious, this just might be one more area that should be navigated differently. But and then I found myself thinking, if I was with somebody who did this, I'd want them to be happy in their career first and foremost. So I'd probably be really supportive. So what are you thinking?
I'm just going to, even the last thing you said, I think is a really good place for me to start. I mean, this is like, what is our responsibility to ourselves and our passion and our careers versus our partner, our kids, our parents, whatever that is. And if our passion means we're 100% in, but there's a really high risk, but it brings us so much joy, but it makes us maybe not a great partner. There's like that aspect. Or like the compromise you were talking about, can you be 80% in love with your job and fly for somewhere safer and you don't get that adrenaline rush maybe at the 100%, but you're a better fit for this particular person's nervous system or for partnership in general. And frankly, I don't think it's a one size fits all. I think everyone, because I think about people who are like spouses of pilots. Maybe they aren't afraid that their husband, wife, spouse is going to die at any moment, but they are alone for 6-7 days and then they're back 6 or 7 days. That's a huge irritating adjustment, probably. People like that are spouses of hockey players.
Yeah, I was going to say professional athletes get hurt all the time.
And movie stars, even just like the time that they're gone or like they have to be so self-focused in their own career. So there are all of these different factors of like, how in love and passionate do we need to be with our career? And is it negatively impacting our relationship? But what I heard this young man saying is, can this not be an ultimatum? Can we talk about this? Because I am willing to, like, in the future, I'd like to do this. I would like to do this. And I hear her saying like, my nervous system just can't handle this. Like either you're done or I can't be with you if you're still doing this job.
You know, it's funny. I actually was thinking about our career.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. I'm like, am I self-obsessed and following a career path that's ruining my family's lives?
Yes. I'm kidding.
Yes.
It's interesting though. We're at different points in our lives. Like I'm an empty nester, so my kids live in different cities. And so it's different for me, except it's a lot of work. I had somebody last night when we were out at Lumberjack Days, somebody who was in my party asked me how much work it is. And it is a lot of work. It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of work, except that we do kind of this, when we do mailbags, that's why I like these. Like we don't have to prepare for that.
Right.
We love the spontaneity of these mailbags, even though I read through it ahead of time. Here's what I want to say about this too. Like, however, if you date me or you're a friend of mine, you know that I'm always in somewhat of a therapy mode. Like I talk like a therapist. And, my buddy Jeff, who was with me at dinner last night at Lumberjack Days, and his wife and our friend Doug, our other Doug, I'm always kind of talking. And so Jeff started laughing because we got into a conversation about our server's history of being a child of divorce and all of the complications in her family system, which as a result of that, her name is Kimberly. She's going to be on our podcast because she has fascinating nuances to this experience of having her parents separate and having sibling strain because of it and loyalty issues in her family as a result of this. And also, of course, her attachment stuff as an adult and how she is parenting her kids is affected by that experience. So she's going to come on at an upcoming episode. But my point being, of course, everyone has their own story about this stuff and everyone has their own decisions to be made about where it is that our deal breakers are and where we kind of come to in terms of what we ultimately want. But, I'm not a fun person to date because I'm always engaging with people about their shit. I'm talking to people who I think look sad. I'll walk up to somebody on the sidewalk and say, "You doing okay?" And 9 times out of 10, and then they find out I'm a therapist and they're like, "Fuck, I've actually been talking to someone for reals."
But maybe that's what it comes down to is we're not a great fit for everyone.
We're not.
It just has to be the right fit because there might be somebody who's like, you know what? I love that you do this and I love that you love this. And I understand the danger and the implication of this, but I'm all in because you're my person and this is your chosen career. I do also wonder about her level of anxiety in general. And I've heard of people, it's like, is this a part of sort of a fear of abandonment that is just manifesting in this way? Like, would she be as afraid of abandonment just for other reasons that someone was going to bail or be interested in someone else? Like, is that an actual insecure attachment? Or is it really legitimately, I don't know if I can start a life with somebody who has such a much higher chance of dying than your average person?
Yep.
Because I might argue, there are no guarantees. Like we have no idea if our loved ones, if we are going to survive another day.
That's right.
And it's
That's right.
possible that idea is so terrifying to her that she is trying to avoid the inevitability of abandonment by being like, well, the likelihood
in charge of it first, right?
That's right. Like maybe I can control this piece of it, but
Sure.
I have a hunch. I haven't seen them together. I don't know them, but I have a hunch that she adores him and that her love of him is translating into an incredible fear of him dying, which I wonder if it would be possible for them to find some sort of a compromise where she is working on that anxiety and allowing him the time he needs to take a safer step in his career, at least while they're getting married and having children and child rearing, or if there's because I want him to be him. But just like, us in the podcast and all of the career and the ambitions, do we have to be 100% doing everything we want to do with our career, even if it takes down our other relationships? Or are there compromises for now is the time in my life where I can hit this part of my career at 73% because my priorities are my spouse, my family, rest, a calm nervous system, whatever that is. Like I said, it's not a one size fits all. There are so many factors, but you got to talk about it.
You got to talk about it.
Never the right idea.
They're not the right idea, but you also get to decide, if you're always going to be on edge, if you're always going to be anxious, if it's going to give you an ulcer, if you're going to develop, a mental health condition as a result of it, it's maybe not worth it. And that has everything to do with who she is. I want to go to one more part of this that we didn't talk about. And that's this idea that, she would be entirely fine being friends, if the two of you weren't together. And I think that's a tough challenge.
I don't buy it.
I kind of don't buy it. It's also, by the way, if she's a dear friend of yours, because it wouldn't be a natural, I don't think it would be like a casual friendship at that point. It would be an intimate, she would be devastated. And so, friend or lover, obviously one might be a little bit more intense of a loss, but boy, I don't know. I don't think she's going to stop necessarily feeling for you after this becomes a friendship. And so I think this whole reality of we'll be really close friends, she's
and
still going to have that
I won't
loss.
care if you die.
Yeah,
because,
that's all of a sudden what she does.
Right. I mean,
Right.
I don't buy it.
It might, and so I kind of buy that she's kind of making a simple, an easy way of kind of getting out of this situation. I don't,
because she's anxious.
She's anxious.
And she loves you.
And she doesn't want the loss either. So she's doing everything she can to avoid the loss. And maybe it's a fallacy, but this idea of like, we're going to be close friends after this. I think that's a not great comment.
We raise our eyebrow.
And by the way, Jake, I'm really proud of you because I think you don't buy it either. I think you're kind of like, yeah, not interested in that. Which, by the way, you get a choice about that friendship too. If it does transition to friendship, you get to decide if that's something you can do. And there are times that we can't have friendships with people we've been in more intimate relationships with. So
That's
sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. I don't do very well at it. So I generally...
I mean, our next episode is going to be about is a platonic relationship between potentially attracted people a fallacy? Like, is that even possible?
I have so much to say about that, but
we'll get so much to say next
episode. Future episode. So to wrap this up, we're both kind of saying communicate. Make sure you're communicating about this. It would be nice if it wasn't an ultimatum, but she's also taking care of herself in some ways. But I want to understand if you two are in my office, I would want to understand where anxiety is coming from and if there's a way for her to manage that differently as well. And maybe it's about talking to other people who are in relationships with people that do what you do.
Have a support
get a support group. It's kind of like, knowing a little bit about the NHL, the spouses of the players or the girlfriends of the players or boyfriends will kind of huddle together and be supportive to each other. And it's an interesting kind of built-in support group.
And that might be what she needs. And last note about ultimatum versus you have your right to speak your truth. I totally agree.
Yeah.
The problem I have with an ultimatum is I think sometimes people will put out an ultimatum that is so black and white and they don't honor that the partner might say like, well, I can't do black or white, but I can think of, let's brainstorm 3 other possibilities that might be a compromise for both of us. And so when I hear she's just not having it, I feel like I want her to take a couple deep breaths. Think about the other possibilities. They're not exactly what you want. They're not exactly what he wants. But if you love each other, come on, guys. Come on. You've got this. Okay.
Good luck, Jake. So the second mailbag, Jess, who is 27, I feel like I've really messed up to the point of no return with my boyfriend, who is Dan of 28.
Okay.
I love this. So the question she has is, how can I fix things?
What'd she do?
We've been going together for close to 6 months and it has been a long distance relationship and it all was going very well. This was honestly my first adult relationship considering the last time I got into a relationship, I was 15. Mm-hmm. I really do love him and I really do have every intention to build a future with him. The issue arises here. I have a male friend. Love this question. I have a male friend and we were pretty close. Ages ago, we even happened to hook up. Critical factor. But that's all in the past.
Oh God. Wait,
I have always
long distance and this kid's local.
And
oh Lord.
And she has only had 2 relationships and it's only been 6 months, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
I have always been open about this with my boyfriend. When we got together, I didn't think it would be right to keep anything from him. I've tried to be as transparent about things as possible. He has a previous relationship trauma related to male friends and really didn't want to make him relive anything similar. So every time this friend of mine would text me or if we happened to meet, I would always let my boyfriend know about every single detail, basically showing him your phone.
Except they're long distance.
Oh, that's right.
I know.
A few weeks ago, which long distance is possible. I believe that. A few weeks ago, this friend of mine got out of a relationship and started texting me more, being very persistent to hang out and go places. When I let my boyfriend know about this, he said he wouldn't like it if I went anywhere with him, and I was completely okay with that. I agreed to this as well. He said that things with his friends seemed to be heading in the same direction, and I assured him that I will be mindful and wouldn't do anything that would show him otherwise. Okay. Meaning this is exactly what happened to him before. It was all okay until yesterday. The friend of mine texted me something that felt like he was alluding to stuff that happened in the past. I felt uneasy and immediately called my boyfriend about it. We were on the call while I kept telling him what this guy was texting me, and it reached a point where things definitely felt wrong. And for the first time, my boyfriend asked me to make the decision of cutting this guy out of my life or continue talking to him. I told my boyfriend that I would indeed stop talking to him. I haven't been in such a situation before. I barely have any relationship experience. I think that's critical. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sure how to go about this and what to say. I spoke some more with my boyfriend and then typed out a message, which I did share with him.
Okay.
The issue arises about how long I took to send the message. I do think that's important.
Interesting.
I don't.
She's so self-aware.
She is, right? I didn't do this immediately. In the moment, my mind felt off. I felt very anxious because I was really hoping that things would turn out this way and was finding everything hard to comprehend. I was hoping that things wouldn't turn out this way, and I was finding everything hard to comprehend. At this point, my boyfriend told me that he felt like I didn't want to go ahead with this. He got upset and ended up cutting out our call, which I do understand why he was seeing your hesitancy and felt that way. I did send the guy the message I had typed out approximately after an hour.
That's
and I shared
long, is it?
And I shared everything with my boyfriend to let him know. When I did this, the response I got back was that my boyfriend would reimburse me for everything I had gifted him.
Oh, come on. Oh.
Ouch. I was taken aback and asked why he was saying this. He said that the fact I had taken this much time to go ahead with the decision made him feel that he is not a priority to me at all.
Yeah.
He said that if it was not him, he said that if it was him in my place, he would have done everything instantly. I tried convincing him that this was not the case, but he didn't want to talk to me in the moment. So I just texted him that he does mean everything to me and that I didn't push anything more last night. I obviously couldn't sleep thinking about all this and had a million things running through my mind. Not surprising. The guy had replied to me saying that he had no bad intentions and what he said was nothing what I thought. I'm not sure.
I don't buy it.
I never responded back. My mind was only running around scared that this would be the end of my boyfriend and its relationship. In the end, after not sleeping, I texted my boyfriend a long text about how much he really meant to me and that I wanted nothing to do with that other guy in any way. I apologized for how I had made him feel. Nice. Today afternoon, he called me up and told me that he wanted to take a step back. After thinking about it all night, he didn't want to continue a relationship where he didn't feel like a priority. He said that I could freely talk to anyone and do anything as I please, which feels a little aggressive and maybe passive aggressive and testing.
Mm-hmm.
I added that.
Mm-hmm.
I told him that I have no such intention, that I only want him and I don't want anything to do with anyone else. Begged him a lot. In the end, he said he needed time. He would continue talking to me as a friend, but not anything more. And if later he felt like he could continue the relationship, he would tell me. I asked him during this time if I continued making efforts to show him that he's truly a priority and important to me, that if that would help in any way, to which he responded that he can't say anything about the future. That's pretty much how the call went. I'm heartbroken right now. I hate the fact that I've hurt him in a way that he was scared about.
Mm-hmm.
I've hurt him at all. I really don't want to lose this relationship. I feel extremely terrified and I don't know what to do. I said I will respect his time and not force him to do anything. Yeah. But I really want to do anything and everything it will take to make this work. I do want to keep sharing my life with him. Please help a girl out. I want to do everything I can to fix things again.
Oh, this is another one of these situations. I feel so bad for both of them. There isn't a real obvious rat, right? Yeah. Because, I mean, this guy, Dan, okay, 28. I mean, I feel terrible for him. He's got trauma around this. He lost an ex, it sounds like, to a male friend. So he saw the writing on the wall from the very beginning. But I will say that I've heard this story or iterations thereof again and again and again. And I think that Jess did a really beautiful job telling, like she was incredibly forthcoming to Dan, telling him every text, every move. This is what we're doing, like very aware that he's got trauma around this and wanting to be very forthcoming. However, the trust that was broken wasn't necessarily, usually what happens in these situations is the trust that is broken is the partner that has a quote unquote platonic friendship is not so forthcoming in either the tone, the nature of the conversations, the way it feels to hang out with this friend. And in that case, the betrayal of being caught or found out, or the partner seeing a text or noticing that they like walk around arm in arm, or just noticing something that isn't just quote unquote friend. But that never happened here. The trauma is solely the betrayal of she wasn't obviously choosing Dan. She wasn't obviously prioritizing him or his feelings. I think the reasons why were kind of innocent and maybe a lack of experience in relationships. I think she may have genuinely believed that friend was more innocent than it actually was, and that they could actually be friends, and that she felt so committed to Dan because of the way she was forthcoming. I don't think she was necessarily doing anything inappropriate or had any intentions that were inappropriate. Although it started to unfold that friend who, by the way, oh my God, Doug, he's in person, available to hang out whenever they want to go out. They text each other versus 6-month boyfriend who lives out of town. No wonder poor Dan is threatened and terrified. He should be. The only way that I think long distance relationships can ever work, this might be a real unpopular take, they have to be moving in a direction with an end in sight, and there are intentions to move into an in-person relationship as soon as this person graduates, as soon as this person can get whatever, like the new job in the state. But it can't be long distance with no end in sight. I feel like that
I'm iffy on that.
Work. Unless that's what both of them want, and they are getting their intimacy.
And it's maybe an open relationship, which
right.
is not the case here. Or it's something where they have excitement about, meeting up in a place together. It's all about time of life, I think, in some ways too. But anyway.
I want Dan to give her a chance to say, you know what? I was naive. I've learned my lesson. I will see next time that if I am protecting this friendship with maybe not the purest of intentions over you, I can see how that would really hurt you. But I also feel like, come on, Dan, she wrote that note and sent it within 1 hour. That feels like a really appropriate amount of time to be thoughtful about saying goodbye to a longtime friend.
But is it a longtime friend? Because they also slept together. I mean, there's a different...
It was doomed.
It was a little doomed. Here's what I would say about this. I want to know why it took you an hour. Like after you... Because it sounds like you actually thoughtfully printed out, or wrote something, and all it would have taken is send, right? All it would have taken is to push that button. And I have also worked with people where there's a hesitancy to let go of the past or let go of somebody. And it can be codependency where you're worried about hurting that person. And so you don't take care of yourself as a priority in your relationship. But I want to know about the hesitancy. I want to know if there was any kind of questioning going on. And seriously, I would kind of dig at this one if you were in my office right now, because I want to find out, like, is there a hesitancy? Do you want to reconsider this relationship now that he's back? I don't buy that he didn't have maybe some ulterior motives to get back together with you. And I don't know, maybe he was just kind of feeling it out. What?
Or hook up.
Or hook up. So I think there's a part where, I think the question of your behavior is an important one and why there was hesitancy. You sound and own that you are a relationship novice, like you are a neophyte at how to do this intimacy and how to make sure your relationship is taken care of. I do think the distance plays a role. No question that your boyfriend's trauma history around this. So he's been either cheated on or something like this before, in whatever way, whether it's emotional, physical, etc.
With a male friend. It was like the same scenario.
Same scenario. So of course he's a little bit sensitive to this and it requires a little bit more attention. I think the other piece though is you two, and I'm curious about how you navigated this long distance relationship. I've been in one myself, didn't go great, but I kind of liked getting together with this person periodically and just like having fun.
It does prolong the honeymoon.
It does prolong the honeymoon and it creates a level of excitement and excitement to get together. Here's what I think about that. I also think though that, you two, if you navigated this well, if you communicated about the contract, like whatever contract you kind of came up for this long distance relationship, as long as you two have a very clear definition of what are you doing, how often will you see each other, who will fly where, at what time, like how often can you do this? I have a buddy in a long distance relationship. And it's really an important thing to kind of figure out, like, what the heck are we doing so that neither one of you end up going off the grid in terms of your commitment or understanding of what the relationship dynamic is. So I want to know, did you navigate that well? Did you talk about what that would be? I appreciate, you use the word transparent. That's my word about communication, especially in these circumstances. You want to be really transparent. You want to be entirely open about everything. So I think you did a good job. I wonder how it felt to you to always have to kind of reiterate, like, I got a call from this person. I just want you to know. It's an important thing to do. But the question is that contact worth it to you? Like, is it worth it for you to do it in this way? And I don't know that answer for you. So as you're taking a look at this, and I want to go to the real question here, like, how do you get him to like consider it? You don't. He has set a boundary at this point. He has let you know, I don't know what the future brings for us. And you may have lost him because of this incident or because of your connection to this person. Mm-hmm. And again, some people can handle it, some can't. I do wonder if you were to see the two of you together, if you all three went out for a cocktail or dinner and he got to know you, like, would that be something? But
you mean if he got to know the friend?
Yeah, if he got to know
I think that's a fist fight waiting to happen. I mean, it sounds like the friend was kind of bad.
Maybe, yeah.
And he saw the writing on the wall from the beginning.
But I will tell you, if I was the friend coming back into a relationship, I'm trying to think if this has happened to me.
Yes, you would probably want to know the boyfriend.
I would say, can you please let me know? I want to know the boyfriend. I want to make sure that this is okay.
That's the only way it can work.
I agree with that. Like, you both have to be friends with this person and they could be a joint chain. And yet, it kind of brings up this big question, which we're going to answer, or talk about on a future episode.
Yes.
Like, can you be in a friendship with someone that you have either been attracted to or are attracted to?
That's right. Or could potentially be because you're both straight opposite sex, or you're both same gender, or attracted to same gender, or bi, or pan, all of it. I mean, and I don't know. I'm so excited to have that conversation because this particular scene is not making a good case for platonic friendships.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit too, because I find myself thinking it is 6 months long. And I really want to know about that 6 months. Like, I want to know, was it very clear that you two had a future together? Did he feel the same way? I think you saw it happening that way. I don't know if he did. But the bottom line is, if you are in if you're in an agreed monogamous relationship and you've decided on long distance, you have to take extra care of that relationship to make sure that you know what the ground rules are, like I said before, but also really commit to it. And that really might mean you can't have these relationships. And I might encourage you to think about this from the perspective of, if he had an ex-girlfriend and that ex-girlfriend was then contacting him and possibly, engaging with him and was in the same city as him, it might make you feel a little bit shaky about this because we don't know what her ulterior motives might be in the same circumstance. But this is about you two, and I'm, blah, 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 but ultimately always about communication. Like, you have to talk about it and see if there's a workable solution here.
I mean, I always feel like it's not about the issue as much as it's about what have we learned from it, and is there a willingness to work together to move to something that works better? Like, if she really has learned her lesson. But I guess you don't know, because future behavior is best predicted by past behavior. But I think she's learned a lesson. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. It feels so good to get back to our mailbags. We can't get enough of the mailbags. This is like how we think and how we do our work. So thank you for indulging us.
Love it.
Like us, subscribe to our podcast. We're on all of the platforms, and those likes, subscribes, and apparently the reviews make all the difference in the world. So if you hated it, still share it with 5 people that you hate. Great. Just spread the word how much we suck. And if you loved it, send it to everyone you know.
So I'm going to read part of this because we've added some things to our website now, we'renotfine.com, no apostrophe, of course. And there's a place on there to submit any questions or comments. And we always, always want you to feel comfortable, again, because you can do it anonymously. Ask the really personal stuff. And, I think about, Talia, all the things that people talk about in our sessions with us. There's a lot of people who come in and they're like, I don't know what to do with this, or can I talk about this, or is this an issue? All of those questions, please feel free to put them on our website. There's a place to submit all of those. We also have a link to upcoming, not yet, a link to upcoming live events. And I'm very excited. August 11th is our next one. And we're going to be putting some flyers out. You can check our Instagrams, which Talia is going to tell you what they are.
And this is for our local Minneapolis people, because we're in Minneapolis.
Although if you want to fly in, as my friend Nicole, by the way, said she wants to. I'm so excited. Come in from Scottsdale, my dear. But, the thing that I'm struck by is, we're doing this one next, and we love couples work, and this is about relationships. And we're talking about the impact of IVF and that process for couples of trying to have a kid. We're talking about postpartum depression and psychosis in this particular couple. And, one of the things that's so great is both It's a heterosexual couple where there's a man and woman. And the reality is both of them are impacted by it. And so it's a really exciting conversation to have about how that impacts both relationships. We also, in addition, on that particular episode, have a hormone expert who's going to talk about like really what does happen with menopause and postpartum depression so that both men and women can kind of understand what that is. And I'll be honest, it's not only about this couple, but all of us who have friends who are going through menopause or have postpartum depression, it's really important for us to know what's going on so that we can be supportive to these people.
If you have ever loved a cisgendered woman, you will have been impacted by the hormonal roller coaster. And I do think it's special that we get to have the couples angle because it affects spouses.
For sure.
So
it does.
much. And no one ever talks about it because the spouses usually feel like, well, I can't even say anything. Like I'm scared to make a move because my partner is the one going through it. But it's going to be an amazing, amazing episode.
Also on we'renotfine.com, there is a link to become a Patreon, which offers you all kinds of extras. I think we had a Patreon person come to our last live event and got some free merch. But there's bloopers, there's inside information, there's music tracks that we love that you might want to share and enjoy as well, kind of what Talia and I might use for our therapeutic minds, but also
ragey, romantic.
I'm a little
chill.
ragey. Yeah. and also newsletter content, etc. You can subscribe on we'renotfine.com. And the thing about this is I was out with friends the other day, right before our live event. And they were like, when's the next live event? I'm like, how do you not know? But I realized that you have to subscribe to We're Not Fine, and it's free, and you can subscribe anywhere and get the newsletter and the vlogs and updates on all of this. The reality is that's how you find out about these live events.
And we just started the newsletters. We've only had 2. We've had so much fun pulling them together. They come out maybe like the second week of every month, taking the best, juiciest takeaways from each of the episodes, gives resources, suggestions, and talks about our upcoming live events. So if you haven't found us on social media too, all that good stuff and links and all sorts of stuff are there as well. We are on Insta. He is Douglas L. Jensen with an E-N.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Talia Jackson. We're Not Fine Pod on Insta. We're also on TikTok. I believe it's just We're Not Fine. And YouTube, We're Not Fine Pod. Find us. YouTube is where you can find out how we color coordinate and whatever Doug's new scar is.
It's healing pretty well.
It is. He looks a little bit like a wizard. We love you guys.
And also, I just want to add one more piece. So another friend of mine had texted me and she was talking to me and I said, just subscribe on the website. It literally took her like 30 seconds.
Right.
So it's obviously an easy thing. She went right on and Talia said, oh, your friend Gigi just connected here. And
be in the know,
really easy
guys.
to do. And it keeps you connected. We're exploring how to do text for those of people who might prefer that.
Right.
One of our friends as well, my friend Rebecca identified.
Would hate that.
I would love it. So when
we want to give you guys options and preferences for.
I get lost in my emails and I probably wouldn't push a link on my email, but if it was on my phone to register for an event, I would do it. So we need to give people the options.
We need to give options.
Yep. And also remember, we're not fine, but
at least we are not in the middle of an apocalypse and we can still eat popcorn and candy and hold hands.
Very true.
See you next time.
Everybody take care. See you next time.